diplomacy, three-language formula, delimitation. But today, they've opened yet another front, and maybe they have bitten off more than they can chew. The Tamil Nadu budget document changed the rupee symbol, which is used nationally across the country, which is taken from the Devanagari script, and replaced it instead with the Tamil alphabet for Ru or Rupee. Now, has the DMK taken this a bit too far? After all, the rupee symbol is a symbol of national unity. It's like the national flag or the national emblem or the national animal. How can one state government decide to tinker with it? It's like changing the dollar sign or the pound sign. Would that be acceptable? We'll try and delve a little more into greater detail as to why the Stalin government did this and how they are dealing with the backlash of this. But could this be potentially a turning point in this entire language war that Stalin and his government have been upping the ante on for a few weeks now?
So they say, in English, they say it is a last straw on the camel's back. They say that the camel will inevitably collapse. I believe today what the DMK has done, trying to replace the Indian rupee symbol, is the last straw on the camel's back on the language war. They've taken it too far, and probably they have entered into a zone from which there is no coming back. And this is going to blow back very, very hard on them because Tamil people are very fiercely nationalistic. They're against the Hindi imposition that happened in 1965. That is a thing of a past. That's an old era.
This usage of Ru is to signify the protest of the state of Tamil Nadu against the policies of the union government, whereby they are deceiving us. They are cheating the people of Tamil Nadu by not giving us the funds which devolved to us by the constitution.
There's a great degree of irony in the DMK government's move because the rupee symbol was adopted by the previous UPA government back in 2010. At that time, the DMK too was very much an ally of the UPA government. The man who designed the rupee symbol is a gentleman named Uday Kumar. He is a Tamilian. He's the son, in fact, of a former DMK MLA named Mr. Dharmalingam. Uday Kumar was born near Tiruvannamalai in central Tamil Nadu. He was raised in the capital city, Chennai. That's where he went to school. That's where he went to college. Kumar won the contest to design the symbol back in 2010. There were 4 contestants. I think about 3,000 plus entries had been made available. And Uday Kumar, who at that time was in IIT Bombay, was chosen. His design was chosen because it was a mix of the Devanagari font for Ra and then the 2 lines on top represent the Latin for equality, and also it was a symbol of the Tiranga. Now, with the DMK and its leader, the Chief Minister Mr. Stalin, literally on a warpath with the central government on a daily basis, the BJP is asking how far is the Dravidian party willing to take this? What will the DMK government change next? The currency symbol is a national identity symbol. And if that can be replaced, what will Stalin replace next? The national flag, the national bird, the national anthem, which was written by the great Rabindranath Tagore in Bengali. So are they going to reject it and say, this is in a different language, we're not going to sing this in Tamil Nadu? Are they going to replace the Ashok Chakra and the 4 lions, which are found in Sarnath, not in Tamil Nadu? So the point is that is this taking it in a direction where the DMK may not be able to pull back from this, and the blowback, both political and otherwise, could be something that the DMK did not quite prepare itself for. All right, it's a big move this by the DMK government. Lots of criticism as well as to how can you remove the rupee sign. It is a symbol of national unity. Currency across the country uses that symbol. How can just one state remove that and use another symbol in the local language? I'm now joined by 2 very special guests. Dr. Tamilisai Soundararajan is with the Tamil Nadu BJP, former governor. He's now joining us. We're also joined by DMK MP Kanimuri Somu. Let me start with Tamilisai Soundararajan. Dr. Tamilisai Soundararajan, the DMK's contention is they're not changing the currency notes. They are just in the budget document, in the front page, they're just changing the rupee Ra sign, which was developed by Mr. Uday Kumar, and they are making it the Ru from the Tamil script. They're not changing anything on the currency. So how do you respond to that?
So first of all, they cannot change in the currency because it's a national symbol. And I am asking, they are telling, their spokesperson is telling, because it's Devanagari symbol, we are changing it. When it was introduced, when it was formed by a Tamilian was the son of a DMK leader itself, and Kalaignar Karunanidhi, their leader, endorsed it. They went and met him and they endorsed it. I am asking whether Stalin is more devotional to Tamil than his father. And so many years, so many decades they ruled Tamil Nadu. So many times they have submitted the budget. Why did they found the Devanagiri now? And why they are changing it now? Totally to deviate the issues from Tamil Nadu. Totally to deviate the focus from misgovernance from Tamil Nadu. Totally deviate from the failure of in their government Tamil Nadu. So they are doing it. It's not only to language devotion. They are doing to deviate it from the people's issue. That is
Okay.
your running.
So let me ask Kanimuru Soman to respond to that. This was done in 2010 when the UPA government was in power. Mr. D. Uday Kumar, whose design was chosen, happens to be the son of a former DMK MLA. This was approved by the Ministry of Finance when Mr. Pranab Mukherjee was Finance Minister. We have been using this rupee symbol for the better part of the last 10, almost 15 years. Why did you think of changing it now? I mean, and how far will you go, ma'am? I mean, are you going to change the currency notes? Is every state now going to use their own local language, local alphabet to denote the rupee?
Good evening, Jacob. Nobody could change the currency. That's the rule of the constitution, and we all understand that. By changing, we are only changing the logo for the budget. Okay, we belong to Tamil Nadu and our mother tongue is Tamil. So we would like to have the RU depicted on that and nothing more than that. They want to impose Hindi on us. We want to say our mother tongue is Tamil and we are having a logo over there. What is wrong? Why all these years they were not reminded of Sengol, no? They got reminded of only it now, no? So same way, even we got it reminded of now when they are imposing Hindi on us. What is wrong in our attitude? When they don't want to give us fund, when they don't want to give extra, the normal seats which we have to get in delimitation, they don't want to give the due share during the funds relief, they don't want to give us the proper GST, when they don't want to share anything from the union government to the state which belongs to India, inside India, which is also part of India, where Tamil is also there, we belong to the country, but they don't want to do it. We are only changing the logo of the budget.
What would you say to the fact that this was designed by a Tamilian? Mr. D. Uday Kumar was in IIT Bombay when this was picked up. He was an architecture student. He's the son of a leader of your party. The commemorative coin, the 100 rupee commemorative coin that's been taken out in the name of Kalaignar Karunanidhi has this symbol.
Yes.
So you didn't oppose it then?
Yes, at that time we didn't have the problems of these people talking about Tamil imposition. If you sign the NEP policy only, we will come to the PM Shri. They didn't oppose all those things. See, they say one thing and they do another thing. Time and again we are telling, we are not against Hindi, we are only against imposition of Hindi. One. Number two, they said PM Samagra Siksha, it has to be signed up. We said yes. And there is a paragraph depicting NEP 2020 also has to be accepted, only then this fund would be given. We sent them back a MOU dropping that paragraph. It is very clearly the letter correspondence between the chief secretary, between the minister, the chief minister. It's been going on for the last 2 days.
Okay.
Everybody's aware of it.
Let me ask Dr. Soundarajan this. So the DMK's contention is everything is fine. I mean, two-language policy, NAP, everything is fine, except how can you say that you are withdrawing funds or you're stopping funds until the NEP three-language formula is adopted? Tamil Nadu has had NEP two-language formula from 1968. There's nothing new in this. The contention that they're saying is the minister said we will not release funds. How can you say that?
No. First of all, they are telling this Tamil is our language. They found out only now Tamil is their language. They don't know before that. So many times they have submitted the budget. One thing. Another thing, this devolution of funds. They are telling they are not releasing the GST. Our Honorable Finance Minister very clearly mentioned she has released the GST and the CST share, everything. But particularly this, when the fund is allotted for a particular scheme, when the scheme is accepted, only the funds can be released. They didn't accept. First they accepted, they made it a U-turn, and 2 shares they have already got it. But now they are denying it. We are asking, their own leader Annadurai said, when other states follow three-language policy, we are ready to follow the three-language policy. Then why you are denying? Another thing, all the private schools, private school children. One thing. I will complete.
Yeah.
I will complete. All the private school children are learning 3 languages. Why it is that opportunity is denied to only the government school children? So Tamil Nadu has 2-language policy means for private schools 3-language policy and for government schools 2-language policy. Why this discrimination?
So-
and when you even in the state government, if they allot some amount for a district, if that scheme is not followed, they won't allot the money for the scheme.
So
for the
I
district.
want to ask Dr. Kanimuri Somu, you know, if you're saying the Ra, which is used to symbolize the rupee, is in yeah, now Ru, you are saying Ru, but the Ra, which was the Devanagari script meeting Latin, if that is imposition, then please tell me the national anthem Janagana Mana is written in Bengali. It was written by Rabindranath Tagore. Are you going to now say that we will have a different national anthem? The national animal is the Royal Bengal tiger. Are you going to say that we're not going to accept the Royal Bengal tiger?
No,
It's not from Tamil Nadu.
I think it's
how
a wrong
far?
perception.
No, because ultimately the Ra of the rupee is also a national symbol, just like the national animal, just like the national anthem, just like the Ashoka 4 lions, right? It's from Sarnath. That is not in Tamil Nadu. That's the national symbol of the government of India.
Yes.
Are you going to say we will not recognize that because that is not Tamil?
See, nobody can change the national anthem, the national symbols, the national animal, the national bird. Nothing can be changed. We are changing this logo in our finance presentation. Okay, why you people are so apprehensive about it? Madam has asked just now. You people are aware of Tamil all this while you didn't recognize. Why all this while you also didn't recognize Sengol only? Now you have brought it in 2023 and you have placed it when the new parliament come. Old parliament you could have still kept it. You've been ruling the India for the last 10 years. And one more thing I would like to make a presence over here is our great leader Aringer Anna had passed a resolution in the State Assembly of Tamil Nadu stating that Tamil Nadu will only follow 2-language policy. It still holds good for us. What Aringer Anna passed in State Assembly, we still follow that.
But madam,
And
can I ask one question, ma'am? There are 29 states in the Indian Union. 28 of those 29 states follow a 3-language formula, including neighboring Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Karnataka, all South India states follow 3-language formula. Why can't Tamil Nadu follow 3-language formula?
That is why they have been losing their identity, sir. You know how many languages have died? How many languages? Bhojpuri is not there. Most of the language has been swallowed and galloped. We cannot do that to Tamil. Tamil is an ancient language. It's even more ancient than any other languages of India, which is time and again proven by our Chief Minister by the Iron Age research recently, which was delivered by him. So we stick to our 2-language policy.
Dr. Soundararajan, I'll give you the final word. The point is that politically speaking, we know that election is coming up in less than a year's time. Mr. Stalin may be doing this for political reasons, but the point is the BJP seems to be isolated on this issue. When Mr. Stalin called for an all-party meeting earlier this week, I think a few days back, every party except BJP attended it, including main opposition party ADMK attended it. This has become a Tamil issue and BJP seems to be left out.
No, we are not left out. We want to convey the truth to the people of Tamil Nadu. When it is good, a mother only knows what is good for the people because they want to align with each and everyone. We cannot align with them because we want to convey the truth. And she's talking about Sengol. Sengol is a Tamil pride. They are not even accepting it. When Honorable Prime Minister knew about Sengol, he immediately made it to be installed in the parliament. And they are telling Tamil pride, Tamil pride, Tamil pride. But where their children are studying, even their education minister's son is not learning Tamil. He is telling, I am learning French. So why this discrimination? Why this drama? Exactly.
Anyhow, they will know Tamil, sir. Whichever language
dramatizing the situation.
Study.
It is totally a drama.
We'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, Dr. Tamilisai Soundararajan, Kanimuri Somu. Thank you very much for joining us for this fascinating face-off between the BJP and the DMK. The latest iteration of this Hindi imposition, NEP, delimitation, the latest iteration seems to be in the budget document in the state of Tamil Nadu for the budget for 25-26 has the Ru symbol using the Tamil alphabet, the Tamil letter instead of the Ra that was designed ironically and incidentally by a Tamil himself. Shifting focus to neighboring Karnataka now, it's been 10 days since actor Ranya Rao, the daughter of a senior cop in Karnataka, was arrested with gold bars worth over 12 crore rupees. The police are yet to zero in on who the mastermind is and whether or not at all there was a larger smuggling racket, because it's impossible to imagine that Ranya pulled off this entirely on her own. The details that have tumbled out are nothing short of a pot boiler with twists and inconsistencies in her statements, and investigators have left several unanswered questions in their wake. Now, CNN News 18 has managed to access Ranya Rao's detailed statement that she's given to the DRI. Ranya Rao claimed that she got a call from an unknown foreign number on the 1st of March asking her to be at Gate A of Terminal 3 at the Dubai International Airport. When she reached there after clearing security and customs and all the necessary formalities, she was given these gold bars and was asked to deliver it at the Bengaluru airport. She also claimed that she was receiving such calls for the last few weeks when she was in Dubai. She said that she doesn't know the exact identity of the caller, but that apparently he had an African-American accent. He also told her that someone will come wearing a white gown near this Gate A of Terminal 3 at the Dubai International Airport. Ranya claims that the caller told her that after she clears the security check in Dubai, he will hand over the gold bars, which are then to be delivered in Bengaluru. The actor has confessed that she learned to conceal gold from YouTube videos. She purchased tapes from the duty-free shops at the airport. She had used scissors to cut the tapes to a certain size and then kept it in her bag beforehand because you would not be able to carry scissors through airport security. The actor said an unknown caller directed her to leave the gold bars in an auto rickshaw upon disembarking at the Bengaluru airport and after leaving the Bengaluru airport complex. Upon arrival and search at the airport, Ranya Rao admitted to concealing the gold bars and also informed the DRI about her travel history, not just to Dubai but also to Europe, America and Africa in the last 1 year.
देखो लैंड तो बोमाई जी ने उस टाइम जो मुख्यमंत्री थे उन्होंने क्लैरिफाई कर दिया है, तो इन्होंने अप्लाई किया था और उसके लिए एक सिंगल विंडो स्कीम वो स्कीम सब था, उस टाइम में मिला होगा। लेकिन बाद में इस 3-4 महीने में जो स्मगल हुआ है, इनके रिपोर्ट के आधार पर बोलना है तो यही 3-4 महीने में ज्यादा हुआ है स्मगलिंग वगैरह, और उनके साथ संबंध है कुछ इनके एकदम डायरेक्ट लिंक है कुछ मंत्रियों के साथ। ऐसे भी बहुत ही बड़ी मात्रा में मीडिया रिपोर्ट है, उसके बारे में कुछ नहीं कर रहे। सबके लिए केंद्र सरकार, ये तो क्या तरीका है? पहले ठीक तरह से इंक्वायरी करो।
Opposition only were going hammer on tongue saying that we are trying to scuttle the investigation and everything. Whatever it is, let it happen free and fair if they think so. We also run quite a capable agency over here. There is no question of succumbing to anybody's pressure. We work independently and we work transparently. And the government of Karnataka does not work at the behest or at the criticisms of the opposition.
Meanwhile, this investigation into Ranya Rao is not limited to just the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence. The Enforcement Directorate has joined the probe today. They've conducted raids across multiple locations in Bengaluru. The multi-agency investigation hopes to unearth what is a larger nexus of gold smuggling from Dubai into India. The ED is probing the gold smuggling link and customs duty evasion. An FIR has also been filed by the CBI based on the complaint of the Additional Director of DRI. CBI is investigating the role of other officials in the gold smuggling syndicate. And the Revenue Department is investigating Ranya Rao's involvement in what they believe were hawala transactions, money laundering, and her possible link to illegal financial networks in Dubai. Harish is now joining us with more details on this. So, Harish, as per the statement that she's recorded before the DRI, it's clear that she was being given all of this gold after she cleared airport security in Dubai, but she has not clarified on who this person was who made the phone call to her, gave her these instructions, or who this person was who met her at the Dubai airport at Gate A, Terminal 3, and who provided the gold to her, who gave the gold to her. Do we know anything more on who the other people were who facilitated this gold smuggling?
Well, two aspects here. She's contradicting some of her own statements. For example, she says that this is the first time that she is carrying out gold smuggling. And she also says that she's never purchased gold in Dubai. But when the DRI had raided her flat, they had found a declaration that she had made to the custom officials in Dubai, which made it very clear that she had in fact purchased gold on the 13th of November and 20th of December. Even here, the police asked her why didn't she report these calls over the internet that this unknown man was making to the police. She says, I did not want to compromise on privacy. That's her reasoning given. but at the same time, she lands up at the Terminal 3 of Dubai airport just based on this call. Now she's saying that she doesn't know who this man is. She just says that this is a man who has an African American accent. The person who met her, he in fact very precisely told her that the gold would be given to her after she clears the security check, which means there was no way that she could be caught in Dubai. And she says the man did not have any interaction inside the terminal. He just called her aside and gave her two packets of gold bars. And the man was wearing a white gown and he was 6 feet tall, wheatish complexion. That's all she's told. And she says there was absolutely no conversation. She was told beforehand that in which form and size these gold bars would be in. And that's the reason she had seen YouTube videos, in fact, purchased adhesive tapes and cut it in the precise sizes that she wanted and carried it to the airport, in a way indicating how well planned this was. And she was aware that the scissors would get caught at the security checkpoint, so she did not carry these scissors. The tapes were cut in different sizes much before she entered the airport. And when she was asked who this was supposed to be delivered, she was evasive, saying that I was just told that there would be auto rickshaw waiting once she crossed the Devnalli toll and entered the service road, and there would be a signal nearby where she can hand over this gold to the auto. She doesn't give out the registration number.
It still does not explain why she was part of this entire racket. Now, either she was a willing accomplice, which means she was getting a cut out of this entire operation, or she was being threatened to do this by these individuals that she's named, whoever the scholar was, whoever this person was who was dropping off the gold to her inside the airport premises. What do we know about what her motivations were to be part of this ring?
Well, the DRI in its investigation so far believes that she was part of the syndicate. They are saying she was one of the beneficiaries. She was just not a mule or a carrier. That's what the DRI believes at this point in time. Even in the 3 statements that she's recorded before the DRI in the first few days of her arrest, nowhere has she said that she was being blackmailed. All she said is this was an unknown person contacting her, doesn't give enough reasoning on why she didn't approach the police. Neither does she share the kind of benefits that she's got. And that's one of the main reasons why the DRI is now saying that she's a beneficiary and she's hiding a lot more information that she's aware of. And that's one of the main grounds on which the DRI has now opposed her bail.
All right, Harish, we leave it at that. Thank you very much, Harish, with details on the Ranya Rao case, which just keeps getting murkier and murkier with each passing day. Let's shift focus to what's been happening in Kerala. The love jihad debate is back in Kerala. This time, after BJP leader PC George stoked up a fresh controversy with his remark asking that Christian girls be married off early as 20 or 21 years old. In fact, before they turn 24 is what he said, to, quote unquote, protect them from falling prey to love jihad. He claimed, and this is a wild claim, 400 girls in one taluk, in one panchayat called Meenachil in Kottayam district were victim to love jihad, and only 41, he claims, were brought back into the Christian fold. And he claims again that this happened because their fathers did not marry them off early. It was a completely bizarre claim. Remember, PC George is a controversial character. He was in jail for making outrageous comments such as this. The day before he made this fresh controversial statement, he had just been released from jail. He was just out on bail. And then the very next day, this is what he had to say. But there's an interesting twist in the tale that we'll get to in just 1 second. This is what PC George said just a couple of days ago.
എത്രയൊക്കെ തിരിച്ചു കിട്ടി 49 തിരിച്ചു സമയത്തുള്ള ചരിത്രത്തിൽ കിടക്കുന്നു. ഈ ക്രിസ്ത്യാനിക്ക് ഒരു 25-30 പറഞ്ഞാലും ഇന്നലെ ഒരു കൊച്ചു വയസ്സ് 25 ഇന്നലെ ആ 9:30 പോയത് അഭിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക. ഞാൻ 25 വെച്ചാൽ പെൺകുഞ്ഞെ പിടിച്ചു വെച്ചാൽ അത്രയ്ക്ക് അടി കൊടുക്കട്ടെ, അതിനെ കെട്ടിച്ചുടാൻ നമ്മുടെ ചർച്ചയുടെ പ്രശ്നമാണ്. നിങ്ങളോട് ക്ഷമിക്കുന്നു പറയുമ്പോൾ ഒരു 18-19 വയസ്സായി പഠിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത് 22-23 വയസ്സാകുമ്പോൾ കുഞ്ഞിനെ കെട്ടിച്ചുടണ്ടേ? ആ മര്യാദ കാണിക്കും. 25 വയസ്സാകുമ്പോൾ എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്ന പെണ്ണുങ്ങളെ കാണുമ്പോൾ സന്തോഷം. മുസ്ലിം പെണ്ണുങ്ങൾ കഴിക്കുന്നില്ലല്ലോ, എന്താ കാര്യം? 18 തയ്യലുകൾ പിടിച്ച് കെട്ടിക്കുക. നമ്മളോ ഒരു 28-29 ആയാലും പല ശമ്പളം കിട്ടുന്നതാണ് കെട്ടിക്കുകയില്ല. അതിന്റെ ശമ്പളം പോയിട്ട് കൂട്ടി എടുക്കാവുന്നതാണ്.
Now, the Syro-Malabar Church, which is the largest Christian denomination in Kerala, has come out in support of PC George. In a statement, the Syro-Malabar Church has said that the BJP leader's comments on drug trafficking, love traps and terrorist activities were very much based on facts. the Commission urged both the central and state governments to conduct a high-level probe into the issues that have been raised while ensuring the privacy and security of the affected families. Now, this is not the first time that the Christian Church, or at least significant denominations therein, or Christian leaders for that matter in Kerala, have flagged off this issue of love jihad. In fact, the Catholic Church has been talking about this for a number of years now in the state of Kerala. In April of last year, in Idukki, in the eparchy there of the Syro-Malabar Catholic Church, they prepared a booklet. It was material which touched upon this topic. It was like a guidebook for students of classes 11 and 12. This was commissioned by the diocese, and it was spread and it was given to all the Class 11 and Class 12 students across the Idukki diocese at a 3-day gospel convention. There was a section in that booklet which specifically talked about love jihad and said that love jihad was not just a concept but was a militant identity. The Christian Association for Alliance and Social Action, CASA, which is again quite a radical organization, an organization that's very strident in its remarks, they've called for the conduct of classes based on the booklet in all the dioceses of the Catholic Church. Back in 2021, another controversial bishop of the Catholic Church, the Pala Bishop, Mar Joseph Kalarangat, also of the Syro-Malabar Church, had said that Christian girls were largely falling prey to love and narcotic jihad in Kerala, and wherever arms cannot be used, extremists were using such methods to destroy the youth belonging to other religions. And a year before that, the same church had said that love jihad is a reality and the Christian girls were being lured to join the Islamic State terror group after conversion. There is evidence to show, this is from some years ago, that at least 20 of the people who went to places like Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria and took up the cause of ISIS happened to be converts from Christianity.
Unfortunately, he has been saying he's been trying to again create divide, because I think he wants to be noticed by the BJP leadership under instructions from BJP that they should try every experiment with Kerala and try to destroy the secular fabric of Kerala.
I don't want to comment on PC George because he is already ill-famous due to his controversial remarks. He was in jail for some days, last week, and no one take him seriously, so leave him. He is a gone case.
All right, I want to move on now to some international stories. An elected leader, once dubbed as the Punisher, was handed over to the International Criminal Court at The Hague to face trial for crimes against humanity over the brutal war on drugs. From once openly boasting about killing people and placing opponents on his death list, Mr. Duterte, Rodrigo Duterte, the former president of the Philippines, is now paying for his crimes at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Rodrigo Duterte was the president of the Philippines for 6 years. He oversaw a brutal crackdown on drugs, openly threatened critics of his administration with death, and tongue-lashed at a host of global leaders from the Pope to the US President Donald Trump in his first term, and even former US President Barack Obama. Interestingly, just a couple of days before Duterte was arrested, he had slammed the International Criminal Court in a typically fiery speech to his supporters, but the tide turned quite suddenly. Authorities were waiting for Duterte to return from Hong Kong, where he had gone, and then they got arrested at the Manila airport, sparking chaotic scenes, and then he was put on a special flight from Manila all the way to the Netherlands to stand trial at the ICC. So the International Criminal Court first took note of the alleged abuses by Duterte's death squads, as they were known, back in 2016, and started its investigation in 2021. Some of the families of these people who had suddenly disappeared approached the ICC. It covered cases from November of 2011, when Duterte was mayor of Davao, to March 2019, when he had become president. During this 6-year term, which ended in 2022, more than 6,000 suspects were gunned down by the police or by unknown assailants as part of this anti-drug campaign. However, human rights groups claim that the number could be much higher than the 6,000. The United Nations report subsequently revealed that most of the victims were poor, they were young, urban males, and that the police, who do not need a search or arrest warrant to conduct these house raids, systematically forced suspects to make self-incriminating statements or risk lethal action. Despite the brutal crackdown, authorities could only target street-level pushers of drugs, and they failed to catch the big-time drug lords. Duterte withdrew the Philippines from the International Criminal Court in 2019, but now has taken full responsibility in a video message that was posted on Facebook following his arrest.
Former Philippine leader Rodrigo Duterte has been taken into custody by the International Criminal Court following his arrest in Manila on murder charges linked to his war on drugs. That's according to a statement from the court, or ICC, on Wednesday. The 79-year-old arrived at Rotterdam Airport on a chartered plane and was transferred to a detention unit on the Dutch coast. He will be brought before an ICC judge in The Hague in the coming days for an initial appearance, the statement said. The court's warrant for his arrest alleges that, as president, Duterte created, funded, and armed death squads that carried out murders of purported drug users and dealers. Duterte's war on drugs was a signature of his presidency, which lasted from 2016 to 2022. The anti-drugs crackdown killed thousands and drew condemnation from around the world. He could become the first Asian former head of state to go on trial at the ICC. Supporters and protesters gathered outside the court.
Want him to be jailed? We want him to suffer, but he actually is lucky because he is experiencing the due process of law compared to the victims that they were just being shot and killed without any due process.
They handed our president to foreigners.
It's so shame.
It's a shame. What they did was shameful. They brought shame to our country.
In Manila, the remains of more than a dozen victims of extrajudicial killings were laid to rest Wednesday, part of a non-governmental organization's program aimed at helping impoverished victims find a resting place for their slain relatives. The 44-year-old son of Josephine Camendo, who was killed in 2016, was among the remains interred. The justice that we want for those who have died is slowly moving forward, she said.
A day after the United States and Ukraine agreed to a 30-day ceasefire to halt the 3-year-long war, Russian President Vladimir Putin has indicated that Russia is in no mood to play ball. In fact, Russia has rejected the ceasefire plan proposed by the United States. Putin's foreign policy advisor has said that this would be nothing other than a temporary breather for the Ukrainian troops to replenish and then come back stronger. This comes after Vladimir Putin visited the western Russian region of Kursk for the very first time since the Ukrainian forces seized that territory back in the summer of last year. Appearing on Russian state television, dressed in military fatigues, Putin visited a control center in the Kursk region used by Russian troops. He said that Russian forces should completely liberate the region from Ukrainian troops as quickly as possible for a full-blown Russian victory.
Russia has given the US a list of demands for a deal to end its war against Ukraine and reset relations with Washington. That's according to two people familiar with the matter Wednesday, though specifics were unclear. It comes after Washington had proposed a deal for a 30-day truce to break up the conflict between Kiev and Moscow that followed Russia's invasion of Ukraine in early 2022. The sources said Russian and American officials discussed the terms in detail for the past 3 weeks. They described the Kremlin's terms as broad and similar to demands Russia previously presented to Ukraine, the US, and NATO. Those earlier terms include no NATO membership for Kiev, no deployment of foreign troops in Ukraine, and international recognition that Crimea and 4 provinces belong to Russia. On Tuesday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he would agree to a 30-day truce as a first step toward peace talks, while Russian President Vladimir Putin's commitment to such a potential deal is still uncertain. The Trump administration has not explained how it is approaching its negotiations with Moscow. The two sides are engaged in 2 separate conversations, one on resetting US-Russia relations and the other on a Ukraine peace agreement. The administration appears to be divided on how to proceed. This all comes as Russia's defense ministry claims to have retaken territory held by Ukraine troops in Kursk in western Russia. Ukraine says its soldiers will keep operating in Kursk as long as needed and says its troops are fighting in and around the major town of Sudzha.
In September 22, when the war was in full fury, the initial phases of it, Putin has often modeled himself on Stalin, and you would see Stalin wear the Soviet marshal uniform, and in many ways Putin is a kind of strange reincarnation of Stalin. But what it tells me is that Putin very much views this as a war that he is still committed to fighting. He has said very recently that he would make no concessions. He said this to a Russian citizen who asked him on the street. He's talked about how the ceasefire would simply mean that Ukraine could resupply. And he's been given the greatest gift by the Trump administration recently, which was the pause in military aid and the pause, most crucially, in intelligence sharing. So Russian troops are on the move. They haven't really made massive gains, but they certainly have a momentum that they didn't have 2 or 3 weeks ago. And that's because Ukrainian soldiers have been operating in the blind without any intelligence. Russian forces have now for 2.5 years, been trying to defeat Ukraine, which is a country that is 1/4 the economy, 1/10 the population. And they have not been able to advance their lines very much at all. In fact, they initially took some territory, the Ukrainians took back a bunch, and those lines have held. So the Russians are not on the move, they are not surging forward. But the question we don't know is how much is Putin trapped in that information bubble as well? To what extent is he also only hearing good news? It's not uncommon in dictatorships that bad news doesn't travel up. So it may be that Putin does think that he's doing better than he actually is, and it may be as a result he thinks this is not the time for a ceasefire.
Taiwan now faces a moment of deep uncertainty. Its leaders once stood shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine when it was invaded. They celebrated a shared bond of democratic values. They even warned of threats from looming authoritarian giants like Russia and China. Today, Taiwan is forced to rethink its alliances. American policy appears to waver towards Ukraine and, as a consequence, towards Taiwan.
Not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
The new tone from President Donald Trump on Ukraine has many in Taiwan asking some hard questions. Can Taiwan truly count on American support if China acts aggressively against it? Taiwan and Ukraine once shared more than just these common values. They are both beacons and examples of democracy. They have faced pressure from powerful, non-democratic neighbors like China and Russia. When Russia invaded Ukraine, Taiwan's leaders quickly voiced solidarity with Kiev. They saw the Ukrainian struggle as their own. Taiwan's fate, they argued, is intertwined with that of Ukraine. In every public statement that was made by the previous president and the current president in Taiwan, their belief is very clear that they have to share the common cause with Ukraine. These shared ideals built trust with the United States and with both its European and Asian partners. The island of Taiwan became a symbol of democratic resistance against the hegemon of China. The story of Taiwan is one of constant vigilance. For decades, the island has prepared for a possible invasion by China. Every single day, fighter jets and warships from China test Taiwan's defenses. Each show of military might by China sends a ripple of anxiety through the island. Taiwan's leaders believe that strong ties with the United States are essential. They see Washington as a shield against the external threat that is China. In their view, American support has always been the key to survival. But the political landscape in Washington has been shifting. President Trump has been making headlines recently for his rather hard-edged comments on Ukraine. He has tried directly to cut a deal with Russia. He has made clear that Ukraine may or may not be part of the negotiations and that he wants to quickly put an end to the war, even if that means losing territory, even if that means no NATO membership and no security guarantees for Ukraine. He's questioned long-standing US commitments both in Europe and in Asia. For many in Taiwan, these remarks are deeply troubling. They worry that if Trump is willing to sideline and throw Ukraine under the bus, he might do the same with Taiwan. Such a move would leave the island dangerously exposed. American policy towards Ukraine was once a symbol of transatlantic unity. It spoke of common interests and shared values. Now, some people are sensing a transactional tone in the Trump White House. The United States may appear ready to negotiate with adversaries like China and Russia, and this, Taiwan fears, is that America will make deals with Russia over Ukraine, and that could mean that it could abandon other allies as well. Many Taiwanese citizens have taken to social media and expressed their anxiety over Trump's comments. Some even suggest that if war with China were to break out, the same transactional approach might be used by Trump. This potential shift in policy stokes deep skepticism. The idea that America might try to bargain with autocrats without giving democracies a full seat at the table, that is what worries Taiwan, and that is what worries Ukraine. It raises questions about the reliability of American promises. Taiwan's foreign policy has always leaned on the backing of the United States. For nearly a decade, closer ties with Washington have been a cornerstone of Taiwan's defense strategy. Leaders in Taipei have relied on American military aid and political support. They have cultivated the relationship with the United States. This partnership has been vital for Taiwan's security. Taiwan, in fact, sees America as the guarantor of its security. China remains a constant and immediate threat to Taiwan every single day. The Chinese government claims Taiwan as its own. It's in fact one of the long-standing, unfinished agendas as per the Communist Party of China. It shows its power almost on a weekly basis by sending fighter jets and warships. These military maneuvers are a clear warning to Taiwan. They remind Taiwan and ordinary Taiwanese that war is just some time away. The island's security depends on deterring China's aggression. For Taiwan, American support is more than just a promise, it's a matter of survival. Every move by China is closely watched. Like I said, every week, if not every day, there is some display of military might. It's a means of intimidation and also a means of testing how much Taiwan will push back. It's a probe against Taiwan's defenses. The constant pressure is designed to erode Taiwan's resolve. And yet, Taiwan has built its defense strategy on the assumption that America will back it. There's even a military treaty that underwrites this security guarantee between Washington and Taipei. That assumption now faces serious challenges. With President Trump's remarks raising doubts about American reliability, Taiwan finds itself in a perilous situation. The challenge from China is not limited to just military posturing. Taiwan now faces other forms of aggression. Recently, a cargo ship that was crewed by Chinese nationals was detained by the Taiwanese authorities. They suspect the ship severed an undersea communications cable. That cable linked Taiwan to the Penghu Islands. These islands are just about 30 miles south of the main island of Taiwan. The incident is part of a series of mysterious events. There are growing suspicions that China and even Russia may be experimenting with cable sabotage. They are cutting undersea cables and thereby disrupting communications. Taiwan relies on these cables for its internet and global connectivity. A damaged cable can cripple commerce and emergency services. Similar incidents have happened before as well. 2 years ago, a cable between Taiwan and Matsu Island was cut. Just earlier this year, another digital cable was damaged. Taiwanese officials say that a Chinese ship may have deliberately dragged its anchor across the cable. These acts of sabotage are a clear message to Taipei. They demonstrate Chinese aggression can come in many forms, so Taiwan must now defend itself not against just military territory but also its communications networks. The incidents raise serious stakes of an already volatile situation. They add to the anxiety amongst Taiwanese citizens. Each new event deepens the sense that Taiwan is under siege from multiple angles. Taiwan is not standing still. Its leaders have taken steps to strengthen their defense. President William Lai has been proactive. He's promised to increase military spending. Taiwan will now spend at least 3% of its GDP on defense. That's a significant jump from the previous 2.45% of GDP. It sends out a strong signal that Taiwan is determined to bolster its own defense. In parallel, the island hosts more semiconductor fabrication plants than any other place on the planet. These fabs are critical to global tech supply chain. The US has demanded that more such plants be built on American soil. Taiwan is preparing proposals to meet that request. Balancing economic interests with national security is not a small task, but Taiwan has no choice but to do both. It currently stands at a critical crossroads. Its shared values with Ukraine, which were once bound tightly to the American dream, now shifts in American policy under new President Trump have sown seeds of doubt. Taiwan faces an ever-present danger from China. The risks are high. Short-term actions like increased military spending may help, but long-term stability requires unwavering and strong alliances. The coming months will test Taiwan's resolve. Its leaders must balance hope and caution. They must prepare for every eventuality. In fact, the future of Taiwan as an independent nation may well depend on this balancing act. All right, so what is the view both in Taipei as well as in Beijing, both on the tariffs and more importantly, what is happening in Ukraine? Is there a sense that America has seemingly thrown Ukraine under the bus? It's forcing it to get into a peace deal with Russia, with or without the Ukrainians in that room. And may the same thing happen if China were to forcibly try and annex Taiwan. But we'll get to all of that in a second with Jonathan Cheng. He is the Beijing Bureau Chief of the Wall Street Journal. Thank you very much, Jonathan, for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. First, I wanted to get your thoughts on this whole tariff business. What's the view in the first 50 days of Donald Trump on tariffs? He's put tariffs on China. China has put retaliatory tariffs as well. What's the view in Beijing as to how they are going to navigate around this tariff business by Trump? Not just, the fact that it's counterproductive to free trade, but more importantly, China and the United States are the two biggest trading partners in the world, two biggest trading nations in the world.
Well, I think like the rest of the world, I think people in Beijing, the leaders here are trying to figure out, where this is coming from, where this is going, and whether or not this pace is going to keep up. If this pace keeps up for the next 4 years, then I think we're all in for quite a ride. Certainly, the tariffs were not unexpected. China, of course, knows the Trump tariff playbook very well from the first term. I don't think they're particularly happy about it, but I don't know that that is outside of their realm of expectation. I think it is interesting to see what Donald Trump is doing when it comes to the geopolitics of it. And I think even though China has been a large focus of Trump and his rhetoric over the years, I think right now they're still trying to figure out precisely what Trump's strategy is towards China.
I want to talk about geopolitics and, of course, the big overarching news development. The theme seems to be the ceasefire deal in Ukraine. Of course, we all saw the bust-up that happened at the Oval Office a couple of weeks ago where Trump and Vance sort of ganged up against Zelensky. How is this, this whole rushing through this peace deal in Ukraine, mostly on Russia's terms, not so much on Ukraine's terms? How is this being viewed both in Beijing as well as in Taipei on either side of the Taiwan Straits?
Sure. I'm in Beijing. We do talk to people in Taiwan, but I can definitely speak for Beijing in this respect, which is obviously China has been quite close to Vladimir Putin, to the Russians. And so if you're going to have an occupant in the White House who is going to be closer to the Russian position, that's obviously good news from the Chinese perspective. Of course, I think it remains to be seen how he might apply that template to China. There has been talk in Washington that you need to quickly wrap up Ukraine, Russia, so that you can then turn your focus to dealing with China. If that's what's going on here, then obviously that won't be so welcome in Beijing. But if you see what's happened with Russia and Ukraine as perhaps a template for what he may want to do vis-a-vis Taiwan, then yes, I would be quite optimistic perhaps, or at least sense some opportunity if I'm Beijing. And on the other side, I might be quite worried if I were sitting in Taiwan and wondering whether or not the U.S. support for Taiwan is going to remain.
Of course, the Taiwan issue is a big, almost emotive political issue in Beijing. It's really high up the pecking order for Xi Jinping. I think he's even said in the past on multiple occasions, if it came down to that, even militarily annexing Taiwan is very much on the cards. The Chinese people and the Chinese military should go on and do it. That's what he has said. He's really sort of drummed up the rhetoric around, forcibly annexing Taiwan. So I'm just curious to know what the feeling there is by looking at the events that have played out between Ukraine and Russia and the Americans pressurizing Ukraine to accept a peace deal. Is there a feeling in the corridors of power in Beijing that this is a window of opportunity? This is a brief amount of time that's available, if you will, where Xi Jinping and the PLA, if they were to make that decision to forcibly annex Taiwan, then this might be the best window of opportunity. What's the thinking in the corridors of power?
Well, first of all, it's very hard to know what they are thinking and how they see the situation here. Certainly what you've described there is one possible interpretation, and I think there's a logic to it. I think you do also need to weigh that, however, against the sense in Beijing here that the military itself in China is not, it's in a little bit of turmoil right now, in the sense that Xi Jinping has gone through several senior leaders at the top of the People's Liberation Army. There have been ongoing purges. There have been a lot of corruption investigations and so on. So you have to factor that in as well, that this may not be a good time for the PLA to embark on what would be quite a sophisticated and difficult maneuver. This is an amphibious sort of a situation. Taiwan has a lot of natural geographic advantages on its side. So do you really want to be doing that at a time when your own military, you may not trust it, or there may not be that sense of stability within the military? So you have that, and of course keep in mind as well that China hasn't fought a conflict since 1979, so that's quite a long time, and that is, you know, it all needs to be factored in. It isn't just going to be what is happening in the US.
And one final word, just taking forward that whole analogy about China and Taiwan vis-a-vis what's happening in Russia and Ukraine. I'm just curious to know, in Taiwan, for example, you know, Taiwan is not Ukraine. It has more bargaining chips, if you will, one of which, of course, the biggest insurance policies, perhaps, having this huge semiconductor network, led, of course, by TSMC. Is that insurance enough that if it came down to that, if China were to militarily attack Taiwan, then the world community, the United States included, there would be enough of an incentive for them to try and deter that kind of action simply because the world runs on semiconductors?
Yeah, I think, you know, that's a complicated question, in part because TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, the crown jewel of Taiwan's semiconductor industry, has just pledged that they're going to build more, expand their facilities in the US, including some of the most advanced chips. So that changes the equation a little bit. And ultimately, it's hard to know because, you know, if China were to attack, it wouldn't want to destroy those facilities either. It would probably want to assume control of them. The US has had senior officials, advisors, muse publicly about the idea of destroying those facilities in Taiwan should there be a Chinese attack. So, you know, it is a it's an issue that can be quite complex, and of course you layer that on top of all the other complexities of just the politics and the military, and it's hard to single out any one factor here. But I think if you're Xi Jinping, this is almost a sacred task that he has set out, that the Communist Party has set out for decades now. I think he wants to see it done on his timeline, whatever that may be. So I do think that will factor in, but it will be one factor among many others.
All right, Jonathan Cheng, Beijing Bureau Chief of the Wall Street Journal, thank you very much for joining us here on CNN News 18. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, we started the day in one place. Things kind of went sideways in a number of directions, and we ended up back at the same place that we were yesterday. And so everything is on the table. But when we're talking about sort of non-tariff retaliation, it could be about restricting supply. It could be putting our own export duties on products. It could be energy and minerals. It could be broader than that. But certainly, you know, the strategic nature, particularly of critical minerals, makes it one of the more obvious targets, because the alternative for the United States to actually get it is from China. There's a certain amount that you can ship by rail, but by and large, you couldn't displace the 4 million barrels that we send to the United States in pipelines. But I would say it works on the other side of the bucket too. So the refineries in the Midwest and in the Gulf Coast are set up to use heavy crude. The United States doesn't produce much heavy crude. It's mainly light sweet crude. And so in order to displace Canadian crude from those refineries, you would basically have to retrofit them all, which would be tens of billions of dollars and probably 5 to 10 years of work. So I actually think the oil that's coming down here is pretty sticky in the sense that I don't think it's displaceable. And so in that regard, I don't think the threat to Canada's producers in the oil sector is as significant as perhaps in other sectors. It's absolutely on the list, of things that we could do, because you're right, ethanol is coming into Canada. It is actually cheaper than Canadian options right now, in large measure because the Inflation Reduction Act actually provides some significant subsidies for biofuels in general.
Donald Trump has defended his use of tariffs and dismissed concerns about market volatility sparked by the global trade turmoil. Speaking to a gathering of business leaders in Washington on Tuesday, the US president said his trade policy was already showing results.
We have car companies that are not building in Mexico now. They're building in the United States. Some of them, the plants were already started and they stopped construction, and now they're going to build in the United States. It was very unfair. They'd build in Mexico and sell them across the border with no tax, no nothing.
In the audience were around 100 CEOs, and some of them may be feeling growing unease. They've all seen some $4 trillion wiped off the value of US stocks in recent weeks, amid fears over the impact of the trade war. Businesses have also been concerned by the volatility of the tariffs, which have been variously imposed and delayed, raised and lowered. On Tuesday there was more of that, with turmoil over duties on Canadian metals. Early in the day, Trump said he would double levies to 50%. He was responding to a move by the Canadian province of Ontario to impose its own tariffs on electricity supplied to America. Hours later, Ontario dropped the move, and Trump said US duties would stick at 25%. The fresh day of turmoil drove another down day for stocks, outweighing glimmers of hope over a Ukraine ceasefire. More big firms, including retailer Kohl's, also warned that the darkening economic outlook was hitting sales. In the end, the Dow Jones Index closed the day down another 1%. But if that worries Trump, it didn't show on Tuesday.
The tariffs are having a tremendously positive impact. They will have, and they are having.
Trump said his tariffs would generate a lot of money for the US and could be raised even higher in the days ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, we started the day in one place. Things kind of went sideways in a number of directions, and we ended up back at the same place that we were yesterday. And so everything is on the table. But when we're talking about sort of non-tariff retaliation, it could be about restricting supply. It could be putting our own export duties on products. It could be energy and minerals. It could be broader than that. But certainly, the strategic nature, particularly of critical minerals, makes it one of the more obvious targets, because the alternative for the United States to actually get it.
Very warm welcome. You're watching the Hard Facts. I'm Akanksha Swaru. The Tamil Nadu government has dropped the Devanagari rupee symbol. In fact, it has replaced it with the Tamil letter for rupee in their logo. It uses the letter Ru to denote Rubai, the Tamil word for rupee. The logo, which reads Ellarkum Illam, which means everything for everyone, has been released just a day before the tabling of the state budget on 14th of March. Interestingly, the Tamil Nadu government's move comes amid an ongoing tussle between the centre and the state over the 3-language policy. Not to forget that last year itself, the